What's going on, everybody? We back with another video. Today we're making some big progress on the LS. Quick update before we start doing stuff. I got the spec clutch installed, torqued down and everything with the pilot bearing in there. Got that done. I got a custom spacer made for the slave cylinder. That was the main thing that was holding me up. I had to get that made because I converted a CTSV T56 over to an F body. So the front plate, excuse me, the front plate right here is different. So the slave was actually like recessed in half an inch, which was throwing off the measurement from the teeth to the front of the throwout bearing. So I got that made, put it on, measured everything up so that now everything is how it's supposed to. The measurements is where they need to be. I got the chase bays, clutch lines installed, got the new bolts, the longer bolts torqued down and everything with some Loctite on them so those don't back out. So now the trans is complete. I got the skip shift plug installed, new reverse lockout solenoid, Hawks Motorsports shifter, brand new mount. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the transmission. So now both of those two are ready to go together. And other updates, I got this very nice Coleman Racing drive shaft, 3-inch, 44.5-inch. I found the measurements on the forum for a couple guys that was running the CX Racing swap kit. So I got that, got my slip yoke to go with it. And I got the JTR heavy duty rear flange. So got this will, this will mount up for the rear end. Then that's for the transmission side of it. And really the whole drive line's complete. And y'all already know I got the 391 limited slip, the 3 clutch upgrade, polyurethane, the condor bushings. So that's the whole drive line. That's the whole drive line there. Other stuff, I got 2 brand new fuel sending units. Got all of that, all my fuel fittings, fuel lines, filters, whole fuel system, voice lag, power steering kit with the AN lines with the brand new loop cooler. So I've been making a lot of progress. Yeah, we're getting real close. Honestly, right now the only thing that I need is the solid steering shaft, which isn't really a necessity with the CX Racing swap kit, but I'm gonna get it just to get rid of some of the slop in the steering. And I'm like, while I'm in there, I might as well change it out so it's not trying to fight with it later on while the headers and everything is in there. That and my intake system from Mishimoto. That's the only 2 things really holding me up right now, and any other miscellaneous stuff that I'm gonna come across when I actually do the swap. And I forgot, I got a brand new ICT billet starter put on there too. So we're pretty much good to go. And I got my Wiring Specialties harness, which I'm shooting to put that on this video. If I'm gonna go ahead and make the trans to the engine, and if all goes smooth with that, then go ahead and throw the wiring harness on there one time. Throw it on tonight, and hopefully I'll do all that before I get hungry and before places start to close. So let's get to work. Alright, so engine and trans officially together. Official, last time, not coming apart, no other reason to come apart. Measurements are all good. I made sure all the lines was tight. I got the bolts tight, thread lock on those. Everything's torqued down, good to go, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. This coming together. I wish my mid case was new. You know, got the new back plate. This dirty, this clean. It's alright though. But yeah, so I'm making progress. Now the next thing on the list, I got the Wiring Specialties harness pulled out, and I know it kind of looked like a lot, but it should be pretty, you know, simple. I watched the video already of them installing it, and it looked pretty straightforward. And they already have everything labeled like this. For example, that's the oil pressure. Come across here, you got your mass airflow. Come down to this one, you got your coolant temp. So they got everything labeled. I got my ECU flash from them. So now that the engine and transmission's together, because there's some stuff that needs to get plugged in on the trans side too, which is why I didn't wire up the engine yet. So I'm gonna go ahead, set the camera up. We're gonna get started on that, and after that, I'll tell you what comes after that. All right, let's go. All right, so it's been about a week. I put the harness on, but I took it off because I wanted to put the headers back on, because especially on this side, the passenger side with the starter and everything, and with the crank sensor, I wanted to make sure that I routed the wiring so that it'll clear, you know, the runners and everything for the headers. So I'm gonna throw the headers on first. When I was putting the harness on, I noticed that the map sensor was wrong. If you can see in there, that little nipple is on that side. So I got the new Delphi sensor, and then with the new Delphi sensor, see, it's on the left side. So yep, so I'm gonna throw that in there. I'm gonna throw the headers on, and I already got the harness already laid out, how it's gonna go. That's bank 1, bank 2 to the trans. This is the AC harness, which I like because I don't have the compressor right now, so I'm gonna just disconnect it from right here for right now. And then when I do get the sand and send compressor, I'm gonna, you know, just plug it back up, do the compressor, and yeah, we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to work, throw the headers on. Alright, so both the headers are on. I got this side tightened down. Everything with the gasket. It's looking nice. I really forgot how nice they look, just sitting over there in the corner. But this side, I just got the bolts caught up because of how the engine's sitting kind of farther over on that side on the tire. It's kind of catching up on the header, and I don't want to, you know, tighten the bolts down all the way. And it's kind of putting pressure on it because of the tire. So I just got them hand tight, which is good enough for me. Like I said, all I wanted was the headers to be in place so I could see about how I'm running the wires for the starter and down here to the crank sensor, just to make sure that I clear it and I'm not burning anything up. And like y'all saw, I got the new map sensor in there. So now this is all ready to go. It's time to start throwing the harness on, and yeah, that's it. All right, so I started with just resting the harness onto the engine and the trans, keeping bank 1 and bank 2 separate from each other, and then got the connections for the transmission and brought those back to where they need to go, so everything is in its place. All right, so I started wiring it from the back to the front, starting with the trans. So I started with the reverse lockout solenoid and the speed sensor, and then I worked my way to the other side, and I had to undo the little mounting bracket for the reverse connection because it was a little weird to get in there and get the connection on while it was, you know, mounted up to the trans. So I took that off, got the reverse connection on, got it mounted back up, and then I started making my way to the engine. All right, starting with the engine side of the harness, I started with the knock sensor first, and that was just the first sensor. It was hanging off the back, so I started there. And then I made my way over to the camshaft position sensor, and it was the right pins and everything. The connection was right, but for some reason, I was just having a hard time getting it on. And when I squatted down and I looked, the tab on the connector from Wiring Specialties, like it's a real big tab. And you see, I tried to squeeze it down to see if maybe I could kind of fit it underneath the manifold. Now, maybe if you have a factory manifold, then you probably wouldn't have this problem. I know if you have a Holley high rise, you definitely won't have this problem. But yeah, I just couldn't get it to go. So looking at the connection, it had like a double locking mechanism. Like it was the, you know how a connection is, it had the slit and then it would lock, and then there was another like tab on top of it where it could like lock in twice, but there was only one place for it to lock in, on the camshaft position sensor. So I went and got my sharp scissors and came back, and I was like, well, I'm gonna just trim off the little bit extra. And once I did that, the sensor just plugged right up, right in how it was supposed to. And like I said, it was probably an issue with running the fast manifold, given that it does sit so low, because I had to change out my valley cover bolts to some low profile ones to get it to fit. Regular hex head bolts wouldn't fit. So that was the only issue I came across really with the entire installation of the Wiring Specialties harness. I don't have anything but good things to say about them. All right, starting with bank one of the engine harness, I just wanted to separate the connections for the injectors and the ignition coil from the rest of the loom, and then just feed the rest of the harness up to where it's supposed to go, to the throttle body, and then tuck it between the manifold and the valve cover so it has a nice clean look and the wires aren't all tangled together and everything. So while I was doing this, I was taking my time to untangle the injector harness from the main loom that's running up to the throttle body, just so I don't have any interference issues. I didn't think that I would, but I didn't want to take that risk, and also to give it a neater look. So I got the number 7 injector connected, then I came up and I connected the ignition coil harness. I wanted to get that connected to kind of get the harness into a rough position on where it's going to be, and everything else should be kind of feed into where it's supposed to go. So then after I got that connected, I came up, got the rest of the injectors connected, 1, 3, and 5. As you see here with 1 and 3, it was tangled up underneath the main loom. So I got those down, kind of got the wires tucked away as neat as possible as I would like. I'm satisfied with it. And then I came over here and worked my way to the front, to the throttle body. I got the throttle position sensor plugged in, and then after that, I got the idle air control valve plugged in. And then as you see with the mass airflow sensor, I didn't put the intake on yet, so I just kind of hung that off to the side where it's going to go. And that told me where I was going to run it, to the driver's side. And then I came over and connected the coolant temp sensor and the alternator. The alternator was a little tight, but I just had to pull the harness forward to give it some slack. All right, so doing bank 2 now. Bank 2 was really naked compared to bank 1. I started off with just feeding the starter wires and the crank sensor wire down to in between the block and the headers, and then I just went over and connected the map sensor. And then after that, I just started connecting the injectors. It really wouldn't have took me that long if I wasn't so meticulous and tedious and wanting to make sure that the wires wasn't tangled and everything and, you know, spun together. When I connected a few of the injectors, like I'll connect it and then I looked at the wires and I'll see they'll be twisted. So I'll undo it, you know, kind of untwist the wires and then put it back. Real meticulous. I just wanted everything to be right the first time. I always believe in the saying, you know, do it right, do it once. So this is my motto for this entire build, is just do it right, do it once. So I ran those forward, and the main loom on the bank 2 side, really the only thing that ran to the front was just for the fan connections. The harness did come with connectors for the fan, so I just ran those forward. And then after I got all the injectors connected, I went back and started to connect the ignition harness. All right, so my GoPro overheated, like, you know, regular Hero 10 problems. But I changed my clothes because I'm about to go meet up with my dad and go to the gun range, let off some rounds. But I got everything finished up. Everything that's down here is just what's gonna go to the chassis side of things, but except for the AC. But trans is wired up, got reverse lockout, speed sensor, knock sensors connected in, cam sensor. It didn't come with an oil pressure connection, so what I'm gonna do is run an aftermarket oil pressure gauge from here, which is what I wanted to do anyways, and run that. And then down here, I'm gonna get the adapter so I can run an oil temperature gauge, because I do plan on taking it to the track, so I want to manage the oil temperature and see if it does start to climb. And then if it does, I'm gonna get an oil cooler, just keep the engine as cool as possible so I can keep it as happy as possible. And got the injectors plugged in, everything tucked away nice and neat. Got the coil harness in, mass airflow, coolant temp. Well, I didn't plug it in all the way because I'm gonna take the intake back off. I'm not gonna show y'all the intake yet. And got the throttle position sensor and outer air control valve. So that's the whole back one, like I showed y'all before. And then got the injectors on this side, coils. The big reason why I wanted to have the headers on was to wire up the starter and the crank sensor. So I got the crank sensor plugged in, if you can see that tucked away back there behind the starter. And I got the starter, you know, wired up, got the signal and the power wire. And if you notice, I kind of had to like just clock them straight up vertically to keep them away from the runners on the header. And on the harness too, this part of the harness is made of like, the loom is different, like a more heavy duty, kind of seems more fire resistant. You can see the difference from this one to right here for the injectors. And it feels a lot more heavy duty, like this one kind of feels, I wouldn't say thin and flimsy, but you know, this one just feels a lot more thick. So Wiring Specialties did do their thing with that, but I'm gonna do my due diligence and use a body clamp and kind of just hold it away, keep the clearance, because if it hangs, you know, and then flex, and it could possibly get close. So just tuck that away, and that's it. And they came with the fan connections too, which is very nice. And then I got my carbon fiber intake. And as y'all know, if you watch my previous videos, I have a partnership with Mishimoto. It's not a full sponsorship, I don't get free parts, but I do get a discount on parts. So I do have their straight coupler, and I did get their 90-degree, but let me grab that. If you notice how big their 90 is compared to the Spectra, it would have pushed it out really far, and I'm not sure how much clearance I'm gonna have with the front of my radiator. So instead of having that, I just went and got the Spectra, kind of tightened everything up, and I got this nice carbon fiber intake, 45-degree. And then down here to the filter, I got a K&N filter on there. So everything is ready to drop in. Like I said, I'm gonna take the intake back off. I really just threw it on because I wanted to see, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, the wiring would reach. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too far, you know, out or too short for the harness to reach. But the harness has a good amount of place, so it's like you can, you know, tuck it down, bring it out more, and then if you were to have it somewhere else. But it works, and it's real neat. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank everybody for subscribing. I want to thank everybody for the support. So I'm gonna close it out here. Go meet up with my dad and have some fun. I'll see y'all next time.